morning, guys. Welcome back to Mindfulness with Miss Petrocelli. I hope you guys enjoyed our class yesterday and that you feel better. I really hope that you took it seriously and you did go through all the 3 videos and practiced, because if you do, you are going to see the benefits. It's going to help you just be calmer, right? So you could be a better learner. So we're going to just recap what we did yesterday, right? Do you guys remember the 3 parts of the brain that we talked about yesterday? Do you? Okay, what was this part right here? The front of our head. Do you remember what that was called? You got it. That's the prefrontal cortex. And who can remember, what does the prefrontal cortex do again? The prefrontal cortex is it's called the executive function. That's where we make all our decisions, right? That's where learning can happen, because we're able to focus and concentrate and think about things and make decisions about things. That all happens in the prefrontal cortex, right here, okay? Who can remember the guard dog? Remember what we said was the guard dog of our brain? That little almond-shaped nugget deep down in that old ancient brain of ours? Who said amygdala? That's right, the little amygdala. That amygdala is our guard dog, right? And the whole point in mindfulness is to what? Yep, calm our amygdala. Why do we want to do that? Because the amygdala is there to protect us, right, from danger. If something's coming at us, a car's coming at us, or a flying object, boom, we don't think about it. We just we just jump out of the way. That's the reflex of the amygdala, right, to keep us safe. But the amygdala doesn't know the difference between real danger and stress. So it'll hype us up sometimes in a situation, because our thoughts will do that to us, or someone else's actions or words might hype us up, right? And get our amygdala fired up as if it was in fight, flight, or freeze mode. And we do not want that all the time, right? We want the amygdala to be calm in certain situations when we need to make good decisions, right? So that's the function of the amygdala. I keep going over this, guys, because it's really important to know the functions of the brain and why the mindfulness breathing is so important, right? It absolutely has a direct impact on our brains. All right, and then the last one, right, is our hippocampus. And what does the hippocampus do? They all kind of work together, right? They're part of what's called the limbic system, right? And they all work together, right, to help our thoughts and learning and all that goes on for us to be better students, right? And just human beings. So the hippocampus, right, we said there's little crescent shape that are deep behind our ear lobes, kind of, back in our brains. And what those do is they help us store our memory, right? Remember that from yesterday? It helps us keep anything that happens in the prefrontal cortex that we learn, gets passed right to the hippocampus and goes into our memory so that we can retrieve it later when we need it. But like we said yesterday, if that amygdala is fired up all the time, then learning is going to be very difficult, right? So we need to calm our amygdala through mindfulness, all right? So, and we're gonna do that by practicing our meditation and our mindfulness practice and gentle yoga movements that incorporates that breathing, and we're going to do that every day. So I hope you really show up for that. Okay, one other thing we are going to be doing every day is journaling, right? I'm going to be asking you just to jot down how you feel. This is not a requirement, guys. There is no real written work for you to do. But journaling is really a great reflective practice. You know, we jot down thoughts when we're feeling happy. We jot down thoughts when we're feeling sad, confused, whatever it is, about our day, about things that might have happened, about our dreams or goals, anything that we're thinking about. It's nice to jot it down. because then you could go back to that and reflect on it, right? Journals are supposed to be reflective so that we can get things out, right? Sometimes it's not good to hold it in, and we don't always have somebody we could talk to about things, right? So that's where journaling is really important, because sometimes it lets you get it out, right? So that you can be clearer about it, right? And move on and not have that burden of those things inside, all right? So that's why journaling is important. I will pose some questions for journaling throughout the week. But like I said, it is an opportunity for you, and you can journal anywhere on a piece of paper, on your phone, on a tablet. You can journal in a notebook, whatever you have, it's fine, okay? But you want to be consistent with it. You want to try to journal, if not every day, you know, a couple of times a week. And like I said, I will be giving you some questions maybe to answer within your journal about maybe how you're feeling, or just some different questions that I will come up with as we progress further into our program, okay? Today I wanted to talk about why, again, is it important to practice mindfulness? Why do we need to exercise our brain? Well, I uploaded a picture, and I'm going to show you this picture, right? What is this? These are a bunch of famous athletes of all types: football players, tennis players, swimmers, all kinds, gymnasts, all kinds of athletes here. And what do they all have in common, guys? They all practice. They all practice to be better at what they do, don't they? They practice every single day. They practice for hours a day, okay? And many of them, most of them, you'll find out if you read more about mindfulness, and I'd like for you to do that actually. Do a little research on it, your own, and see the benefits of it. But you'll notice that what these athletes have in common is they all practice breathing too. They all, in some form, like to calm their minds. I specifically read about LeBron James and how he meditates before even he'll take a deep breath, even before a jump he's going to make, when the time, you know, is ticking and, you know, he's trying to make that score, he will stop and be mindful of what he's doing, right? And mindfulness is not just about breathing, guys. It's about shutting everything else out, right? And focusing just on what we're doing. So if you're about to shoot that ball, don't think about your teammates, you're not thinking about the audience, you're not thinking about your coaches, you're thinking only about the ball going into the basket, right? That's like mindfulness is all about. So when we're practicing mindfulness, our brains are going to be scattered, right? All over the place, just kind of like that jar, all over, lots of noise. But we want to calm, quiet all that noise, right? So that our amygdala is calm and we're ready to learn and make better decisions. That is always the goal of mindfulness. All right, before I wrap up this lesson for today, I just wanted to also go over some fun facts about our brain. So I'm gonna kind of read this off the poster again. These things. So neurons. What are neurons? This is the thing that happens with the breathing, right? Our neurons either strengthen, or if we keep doing something over and over and over and over again, our neurons, our connections in our brain get stronger and stronger. So if we're constantly angry, or if we're constantly freaking out, or if we're constantly impatient, and guess what? Our neurons are gonna strengthen in those areas, right? And that's how we're gonna react. But we can change that. Remember we talked about plasticity. So we want our neurons to be able to, we want to form new neurons, new connections, right? By calming our brains. So we form better habits, good, new, positive habits that are going to be good for us, not hurt us, right? Like overreacting or just being too impulsive, right? About our decisions. Not good, right? We want to think things through. So basically what you want to remember about the neurons, I'm not going to go into all the parts and all that, it's not relevant. But it's that we can make new connections, right, with our brains by breathing and calming our amygdala, we do change our brains to be better for learning and better for reacting, okay? It's really simple, so we have to do it, okay? Here's a cute little fact. The brain grows 2 times really fast in our lives. From when we're born to when we're 3 years old, they're growing and growing and growing and creating all those networks, right? Because we're learning so much, our brain grows so fast when we're babies. And you're living through some of you are living through the second growth spurt, right? Which happens it peaks at 11 and 12. So it kind of happens when you're around 8 or 9, right? That's when your brain starts to, boom, grow again, up until you're like 11, 12, 13 years old. So within that range, you're having another giant growth spurt. So you have to exercise that brain. So you form really good connections instead of connections that might get you into trouble or not help you with studying or not help you just making good decisions, right? All right, so at about age 12, they're saying, right, then we start pulling away, like things that we're not doing with our brains, like say we're not using certain skills, they start weaning away. For example, I'm going to use me as an example. I speak Portuguese as a second, well, it was my first language, but I speak Portuguese fluently, and I read it and write it. But I haven't been practicing it lately because I used to speak it all the time with my grandma. But my grandma passed away 9 years ago. And I also spoke it with my dad. But my dad passed away a couple of years ago. So because I have not had my family members close by, I have family in Portugal and in Brazil that I could speak with, but I don't speak with them all the time. But if you're not practicing, like I'm not practicing my Portuguese, I'm starting to forget certain things. I'm starting to forget how to write it. I'm starting to forget how to say certain words, because that's what happens when our brains, right? Even as we get older, we start losing those connections that we don't use all the time, right? We start forgetting. So that's why it's important to strengthen up those connections that are going to be helpful to us throughout our lifelong learning careers, right, guys? Okay, so that's why that's important. We'll come back to more facts. And also, I'd like for you, please, find some interesting facts about the brain on your own and let us know. Put it in the comments. I'd love to know what you find. Till next time, guys. Bye-bye.